Before I start, please be aware of the trigger warning on screen. I will also alternate between using the terms queer or LGBTQI plus community, both to mean the same thing. For some, Instagram is purely a place to post the pictures of that fabulous meal you had last night or some funny cat memes. For those from a Singaporean Muslim background who either identify with or think they may be queer, it can provide a digital refuge where they can find acceptance, healing, and belonging. These individuals have not just got to deal with their own identity and their religion, but have the added constraints of a typically strict cultural upbringing with beliefs, values, and expectations. X is a good friend of mine from that very community. When they revealed to me their childhood, their mental health struggles, their gender dysphoria and physical dysphoria, it was a profound moment of shared anguish for me. But for them, it's not just a moment, it's lived every single day. This connection prompted me to see what research exists, to look at what tools and sources of information was out there for them. And I actually found there'd been very little research into the struggles of this particular community. I will now provide a little background, then consider what we mean by social media and Instagram, consider what relevance it has to this community, and to share with you how and why Instagram provides such an important and valuable environment for this community. Not forgetting it too is a place where those of us outside of that community can educate ourselves and learn to become better allies and friends. There is a general acceptance that Islam typically has little tolerance of those who do not fit in with the confines of two genders and heterosexuality. Although I am aware of some Islamic leaders, imams, who can challenge these views. We also know that the mental health within the LGBTQI community is a major concern, with a far greater proportion of mental health issues shown here than in the general populace. Members of the queer community also report that they find professional support services are not necessarily tailored to their specific needs. As Singapore has a culture of using corporal punishment, it typically has strict expectations imposed on children, with parents expecting obedience, respect, and academic excellence, with parents often managing their children's education. Disobedience, non-conformability, and underachievement is considered as bringing dishonour to the family and is punishable. Occasionally, some of these practices hit the headlines. Now, these practices are not true of all Singaporean parents, of course, but it was identified in research and is too the lived experience of X. Now, one last aspect of abuse, and for which there isn't a great deal amount of research within this cohort, is that of sexual abuse and harassment. And it's not confined to those who are presenting as female, and has been reported to occur in locations one would assume safe, such as holy and religious locations. Whilst here we're talking about the positive attributes, we must address the elephant in the room: online bullying and trolling, and the harm that results from it. I'm not detracting from that issue, which is hugely important. However, here I am exploring how these attributes of acceptance, healing, and belonging can be found. When we think about Instagram, we immediately think of it as a social networking site, or an SNS, a place to connect with friends, influencers, and family, see what they're up to through their posts. But digital platforms that fall under the banner of social media or SNSs is far broader than that. It includes gaming sites, think Twitch, professional networking sites, LinkedIn, and digital pinboards like Pinterest, and a few of them are shown here. When we understand what these platforms truly are and what they afford, we can see why and how certain ones are important to this community. These spaces can be more correctly characterised as network publics, a term coined in 2011 by Dana Boyd. A public is simply a public place. Think of the Optus Stadium. Now, if you add thousands of people gathered to watch a game, a band, or some event, now you have a collection of people with a shared interest or shared social or cultural identity. Creating this environment technologically, you have a network public. And just like the Optus Stadium, within that space, you can have multiple events or multiple collections or groups. Instagram is a network public. It's owned by Meta and has evolved over time to incorporate not just still images, but videos now and live streaming too. Within this space, you also have individuals, users, and groups. Understanding what makes Instagram popular with this cohort, we have to look at what it affords those users. Firstly, accessibility. It's not quite worldwide, but is available to the largest communities of Muslims, who are mainly typically based in the Asia-Pacific region, and it regards itself as a queer ally. Key points being that it provides you with the capability to have multiple accounts or profiles, the ability to use, within reason, whatever names you like, and for users to include their pronouns in their profiles. Instagram then provides a space where these individuals can have a profile to share with their family who may not accept them, and another or several other ones to explore their own identities, religion, and interests. If you're an Instagram user, you'll be familiar with the use of hashtags as a way of searching. For example, if I search hashtag transgender Muslim, I see there are over 1,000 posts that I can review. And whilst you can no longer follow a tag, this is one way you can find individuals or groups with similar interests or that you may identify with. So when we consider those perhaps querying their identity, these spaces can provide a way of networking and finding others, all with the opportunity to do so from behind a facade. These spaces have been identified as digital closets in a paper Barzadi in 2025. And that paper actually provides the most social science, humanities-based research on this particular subject. And it covers technology, queer Muslim youth, and the politics of online survival. She identified that intimacy was built not through broad visibility, but through the selective access and audience control from those that actually participated in her research. The comments that stood out particularly were things like being safe, where in the space they felt safest, and where they could breathe and actually be themselves. Now, within Instagram, there are actually quite a few accounts catering to the queer community within the confines of an Islamic upbringing. However, one specific account, this particular one on screen, stood out. They specifically describe themselves as a community. And whilst they do not post their own content very much, they actually share and repost events and information from other aligned accounts. For example, there's a wellness workshop for queer Muslim community run by therapists coming up. And I will add here that all participants are vetted so that it always remains a safe space. They also promote projects such as the Tea Project, which is a non-for-profit organisation supporting trans people. And they also help with fundraising. The fact that they are showing other information is particularly important when you think about those in the community that have not revealed who they really are. They only need to follow one account to collect information rather than multiple, making being found out through whom you follow a little less risky. Another important factor is that X and many others, it appears, feel they are a bad Muslim because of who they are. But this page provides some historical information around queerness, the Quran, Islam, and where this idea that queerness was somehow unnatural or immoral actually came from. So for those that are torn between what they feel the religious teachings that they've been brought up with, it can come as some consolation. They are not a bad person or a bad Muslim. Whilst public accounts like this and many others exist and are followed by many, they are still too public for some. And some have reported having to delete their accounts before family gatherings, just in case. Others then create their own private groups as a result of finding others in this way. In these groups, they can talk openly with each other, even pray together, as I've said, even religious places are not safe for some, and as a result, they avoid attending the mosque. So this is a hugely important factor. While some of these sites simply are seen as simply forming a type of activism, what is consistent from the research is these platforms provide an opportunity for both knowledge sharing and creating new families, a place they can call safe and be themselves. In closing, we can see that Instagram and this particular community group are providing a much needed space or refuge for those within the LGBTQI community who are from a Singaporean Muslim background. They have the belief they are bad Muslims or want to follow their faith and are scared to be open, who need to find others to talk to help them heal when they are finding professionals are not meeting their needs. This is not a solution, but perhaps bringing this to the attention of others, more research can be done, more education provided, and more acceptance can be found. Hopefully we can all become better allies.